Again, General Manager of the Joburg Property Owners and Managers Association. Angela, we were chatting earlier about why it seems to be so very difficult to sort this problem out. We know that in 2019, around this very building, someone was arrested, and then it seems it never progressed. The authorities knew full well this was a hijacked building, an unsafe building. Why the seeming lack of energy to get to the heart of this problem?
Building hijackings is big money. Everyone makes money except for the residents and the Joburg Water and City Power. Within these building hijacking syndicates, the reason why they're so successful and they get away with it is because of the amount of corruption that we have in City Council. From the guy in the billing system who makes that 2 million rand suddenly disappear and appear on someone else's account, to the policeman who gets paid a bribe, lets the hijacker out, changes the case number to domestic abuse, that the case doesn't even exist anymore. The level of corruption within the city of Johannesburg is horrendous.
What evidence do you have of that? Do you have people who are prepared to open cases about that?
Oh, it's very scary. I myself have been threatened and told that 1,000 rand will make me disappear if I stick my nose where it doesn't belong. I've been very quiet about it, but after this and these people dying, I don't want to be quiet anymore. And I can tell you the corruption goes through all the levels of council, from the person sitting in the call center up to the directors, assistant directors. Everybody within the building hijacking syndicates is taking a cut. They wouldn't be able to get away with it for so long if there wasn't the amount of corruption that is happening.
Of course, because one of the issues that's being flagged is the PI Act, which is the Prevention of Illegal Eviction. The President was actually asked on his walkabout whether he believes that the PI Act should be looked at again. And he said, yes, it needs to be reconsidered. So is that part of the problem?
The PI Act is a huge part of the problem. And it's important to note, the PI Act has been around for 25 years.
Yeah.
So the city and the government, and unfortunately it's an act, so it needs to go through Constitution Court to change it. But the government and everyone has known about it for 25 years. Building hijackings have been going on for 20 years. 20 years ago, there was the movie Jerusalema, which was kind of a very extreme view of building hijackings. I've seen that, where they go, in 20 years ago, they would go into buildings with AK-47s, throw people out buildings. Now it's a lot more formalized criminal syndicates that works with paperwork. Illegal, they've got forged title deeds.
So in that aura of criminality and corruption that you've just explained, how will change in the PI Act help at all?
So, I mean, the big change, if they could say that you don't have to find alternative accommodation, or even if the private sector can assist with, because the PI Act states that the alternative accommodation needs to be supplied by the council, by municipality, and that is where the issue comes in. We have approached the city and said, we have a building, we're willing to turn it into temporary emergency accommodation for you to get rid of the hijackers in another building and move them there. The council's not interested.
Why not?
I have a phrase that I use when I'm dealing with council. It's arrogant incompetence. They don't know what they're doing, and they're arrogant about the fact that they don't know what they're doing. They don't care.
Why don't they care?
Because they're getting their salary every month. They don't have to do anything. They get paid. The council is managed by the unions, so it's impossible to get fired for not doing your job if you're at council. You either get put on leave or you get investigated, but you still get paid every month. So there's no desire to do anything.
Do you think things are going to change after today?
I hope so. I really hope so. I hope this is a huge wake-up call for the city. It's absolutely devastating, but I'm not surprised. It was a long time coming. Last year we had the big fire near the Kwai market.
Yeah.
Last week we had a fire in one of the buildings. There weren't any fatalities, but there was still a building. It was on the top 3 floors of a 15-story building. You know, the fires will continue to happen while the city sits back and does nothing. And the problem is, and this is a huge thing, is the city does have bylaws in place that empowers them to deal with problem properties.
Explain them to me.
So there's a bylaw called the Problem Properties Bylaw, which has been around for nearly 10 years now, that the city put together specifically for hijacked buildings. The clause states, if a building is unsafe and inhabitable, the council has the power to do an eviction on that building. So they have this policy that allows them to go into buildings, do inspections, check the fire equipment, check the water connections, the electricity connection. They're empowered to do that.
But obviously it can't violate the PI Act because it all has to fall under that. So it doesn't?
So this is the thing. If a building is too dangerous to be inhabited,
yes,
it is the council's responsibility to do the eviction. In the case of this building, I can tell you without even going into the building, I know what it looks like inside. I've been in hundreds of hijacked buildings, and I can tell you it was an accident waiting to happen. People living on top of each other with all their worldly goods within a small space where it's a bit chilly, building a fire, something to keep warm, some light, anything like that. It was bound to happen. The other thing that we have picked up is where there's hijacked buildings that do have electricity, when we have load shedding and the power comes back on, that power surge is damaging the illegal connections and causing fires.
And of course, we don't quite know what happened, but as you say, it was quite literally a death trap, because we have heard horrific stories of people desperate to get through security gates that have been locked between one floor and another, and of course highly flammable material, as these office spaces have been divided up for small family units. Well, Angela, let's hope things do finally start to change. Thank you so much for coming into the studio.
It's a pleasure.
Much appreciated.
Thank you for having me.